This place, I have to say, sort of makes me laugh, or is it, I don't know if it's laugh or cry sometimes. First of all, we've had an hour of government speakers before we get reached, by which time the senior minister, no disrespect to you, Junior Minister Troy, but the senior minister is gone. And that's what the changes in the speaking order were designed to do. To one, knock down a significant section of the opposition to the point where they're lost in the order, but then to allow the government to be both the government and the opposition. So we have this fascinating situation where the government, who refuse to give an income subsidy to the taxi drivers, the Ents and music and arts workers, who are intending to cut their income tomorrow, even though government measures mean that they cannot return to work, or if they do return to work, they lose all their payment, but there isn't even anything close to a viable income out there because their sectors have been impacted by government measures. And the government is going to go ahead and do this, and then a government spokesperson who gets to speak after the government, before the rest of the opposition, gets up and says how terrible that is. So you're the government and the opposition. Brilliant. And you can play the speech out, and was it Finglas was mentioned? I'm standing up for the taxi drivers, but I'm actually part of a government that's going to slash their payment tomorrow. I'm standing up for the arts workers, but I'm part of a government that's going to slash their income tomorrow, and who has ignored their calls, and who is only now talking about them because we had the biggest demonstration of taxi drivers ever seen in the history of the state. Paul's coming in, so yeah. So I'll be 5 minutes then. So this is just unbelievable speaking with forked tongue, right? These people don't want tea and sympathy. They've stated their case. I mean, I remember doing it at Leaders' Questions back in March, talking about the taxi drivers and the arts and music workers, right? And the minister at the time, the previous government, just looked at me as if I had two heads and say, what are you talking about these people for, right? But the reason I was talking about them then, the reason I had to fight, and I had to fight to get them, both of those groups into the COVID-19 committee. I spent weeks arguing in online meetings. We need to get the taxi drivers in. We need to get the events people into the COVID-19 committee because they are disproportionately hit. And it was a hard fight to get them in. I eventually got them into July. And then a lot of tea and sympathy at the COVID committee, but nothing. Nothing actually committed. Now, I'd just like to know, Minister, are you going to give the taxi drivers an income subsidy? Because, see, I don't see what has changed. Are you going to give the events and arts workers and musicians an income subsidy? Because nothing has changed for them since when you introduced the 350 payment. Nothing has changed. In fact, it's looking more precarious for them as we move to level 3 or level 4 or God knows what, right? Why was it okay to give them 350 and now it's okay to cut their payment? And similarly with the Aer Lingus workers, or other people in those sectors, or people in cafes or bars or whatever it is who are on the wage subsidy. You're going to cut their income. All the company who gets the money, the companies get the money, no problem. All they have to do is sign a declaration saying, oh yeah, our earnings are down by 30%. I mean, the arts workers' earnings are down 70%. The taxi drivers' earnings are down 70%. But they get nothing. But Aer Lingus say, oh, our revenues are down by 30%, no problem, there's the money, right? What's happened to the workers on the ground? Oh, we've no idea. There's no oversight, whether they get top-ups, whether on the days they're not working, they actually get their social welfare forms signed, right? So it's just the little person, but who's the ordinary person out there doesn't get looked after. Tea and sympathy is what they get, but when they actually, it's only when they get out of the streets they put a bit of pressure on you, and the only lesson one can really draw from that is that taxi drivers will need to come out on the streets until you do give them something. Similarly with the arts workers, similarly with the aviation workers, and similarly with all the others who clearly are not in it together with some of the others who are being cosseted by this government.
Deputy McMahon.